This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I am at the summit by BFS, Boutique Fitness Solutions. We're going to change gears here a little and tell you something that you don't know about and you're going to wish you knew about before, but now you know it. So I want to welcome April Berg from Cincinnati. She's going to tell us about the Aruna Project, which stands for Bright Morning Sun.
There you go.
Good to see you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So you were an athlete back in the day with your husband, so you obviously have a winning mentality. So give us the pathway to get to where we are, and maybe start off by saying what the project is so people have a little bit of a prelude.
Sure. So Aruna is an athleisure lifestyle brand where we free and employ women from sex trafficking and provide them with sustainable employment. So everything that we create, athleisure products marketed for the U.S., was made by the women who we've helped set free and have overcome quite awful situations.
Amazing.
We provide sustainable employment through holistic care and all of that, so they're fully sustained. And then our products are sold and marketed here in the U.S.
That's great. So you were telling me right before we started that this wasn't the destination. You were doing something else, and you ended here. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so my husband and I were actually traveling for work for something totally different about 15 years ago. And we were traveling internationally to India specifically. And when we were headed there, you know, we saw on a little ticker line a news channel that said 12 minors had been rescued out of a brothel. And we were like, what? And this was before a lot of awareness was happening here in the U.S. And so the way we're wired, you know, we try to figure things out. We found an organization that was working in one of the highest red light areas in Asia. And so we decided to go in, and this guy from an organization said, to understand it, you have to come see it. So we went into the area and were forever changed. In a 2 square mile area, there's over 15,000 sex slaves who exist in a tiny corridor, awful living situations, poverty-stricken, you name it. And so we came back and thought we wanted to help, but we didn't know what help looked like. So we took our whole family back and embedded in the area for a number of months. And just did a lot of research, mission, vision, values of other organizations, to the women themselves. What does help look like? And we found out very quickly that employment was a key piece that was not happening. So a woman can be freed, but the re-trafficking rates were so high, over 85%.
Can I ask you a question about, you know, obviously you're in a foreign country.
Sure.
Right? There's laws, but maybe they don't really exist, or they're not practically, you know, enforced. Did you fear any kind of retaliation for, obviously somebody's profiting off of that. They probably are in some kind of organized crime syndicate. So when you went in there, obviously you want to help, right? But it's not as clear cut as, I want to make sure like these kids get, vegetables and not ketchup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes. And that the key was doing a ton of research and figuring out what is happening. And it's a systemic issue, poverty-stricken area. We're not talking about the higher level of security type of thing.
Okay.
And so, these organizations, these women have been in there. Some of them are born in the brothels, even some of the pimps and madams, and we can go down a whole, it's crazy, but they were born in the area. And so you have to change a whole culture of things. And so that was when we started the solution first. So we created a for-profit business in Mumbai. And so kind of like figuring out, let's create the employment with a few women that we were able to rescue first. And so we started there, and then just through the training and the gaining of interest. It's when you empower a woman, it's about a 3-time multiplier of people that we actually free. So if you free one woman, there's going to be about 3 more people that come with her.
Yeah, I think that's like the stats on like microfinance in Africa. Like, let this woman build a business.
Yes.
And it doesn't take that much money for them to figure out what to do and how to make it recurring. It's actually pretty incredible.
Right, it really is. And so we realized we needed some step stools throughout. So we partner with aftercares and other things like that. And then we also provide training centers right in the heart of the red light area where our staff go in daily, create relationships with the women, trauma-focused counseling, and then skill and trade development. So if it's not us they're stepping into, employment with, that they have the keys to do it somewhere else. And so then once we remove her, we provide transitional housing, and so she's fully removed from the area. And then again, benefits, healthcare, retirement, that type of thing. And then we have designers in the U.S. So our team here, we obviously market the athleisure space, the bags, headbands, backpacks. We use sustainable materials. So we ourselves create it, design it, source all the fabrics to make sure that's sustainable as well. And then we create the tech patterns and everything so that when our production unit gets the materials, they know how to create it. They're all creating it, in a community of care. And then we receive it here in our U.S. base where we're able to free and employ women in the U.S. as well. And so then we distribute it, and we're an e-commerce brand, so we can do it online. We do expos. We can, provide solutions to a number of people, both customizable. We partner with marathons where we do, customized bags as well.
So from a standpoint of the growth of the company, if you had more marketing dollars, then you'd have a bigger business. At the same time, you're kind of toggling between supply, demand, and, probably managed growth.
Yes.
So how do you think about that, building a business where you don't want to get ahead of yourself? At the same time, there are 15,000 people in that one area. Then if I can employ all of them, but the business has to catch up to do that. So how do you think about growth when you're running this type of business?
Yes. So oftentimes I like to describe it as a backwards business model because it very much is.
I was on to something. I didn't know what it was called. Now I know. That's a backwards business model.
Why not?
I'm doing good for everyone. I just need to generate some revenue so I can cover all this.
Yes. So that's so we created it in such that it's kind of a flywheel model. And so it's a nonprofit and a business together so that it feeds in each other. So if one fails, the other one can come up and replenish that.
Okay.
And so we're an international human rights organization, but then that entity owns the business, the production unit, training centers, that type of thing, so that they can function itself. So you purchase a bag, 100% of those proceeds go right back into that business so that it can do the employment wages, that type of thing. But as far as scaling, our team has learned to do a lot, and trying to figure out a lot of that type of space when you're trying to do more good. And you're battling with other brands, you have the Lululemon, Athletic, a lot of athleisure brands that do really well.
Especially now, because nobody needs to wear formal wear anymore. Right?
I know. I'm like, it's all athleisure wear, right?
when you think about going into different product lines, do you sometimes say the raw material is actually in this country and we're trying to help these people? And is that a backwards product design strategy?
No, we want to stay on trend with all of the designs. So basically the athleisure space was created, and so you have typical items that have to be true. So you have all of the materials where it's like, we go to the outdoor retailer where all of the sourcing comes through. So every brand that makes tech goods and, hiking and, all of that type of stuff. Exactly. Yeah. So all of those fabric and suppliers are there. But there's an industry standard that has to be true, where it's called Blue Sign Certified, where it just means the supply chain has been checked, because people are starting to realize the fast fashion is going out. And so we want to stay on and really talk about the person you're empowering, not just the environment, not just, good materials, but it's like actually the person. And so that's where it's really hard to do that, though, because the cost, obviously, and we don't meet the minimums that some have. And so you have costs there, too. And so we're really trying to scale all levels of it all at the same time. So you can donate to Aruna, and that those proceeds are going right into the efforts directly to help, free the women. And then you're also purchasing the products go in directly to help, build more and then build the brand and awareness. And I'd like to say that we can compete with the best of them, but
that's great.
We're going to do what we can for now.
Yeah. So when you think about the funding for this type of business, obviously generate revenue. We don't have to talk to any investors. We don't have to raise money. How have you thought about that? And what are you legally allowed to do and not allowed to do?
Yeah. And that's where my pay level is different. Okay. That would be our owner, and that type of thing, our CEO, who kind of leads the business solutions types of thing. So I stay true to the kind of the customer experience is kind of where I am. Obviously, we have tons of goals and that type of thing where we are looking to create kind of a mid-step for women. So it's like, I would say our biggest struggle is we have such when a girl comes in, and she starts with a simple little drawstring bag or a canvas bag or that type of thing, you have to have an entry point for these girls.
Right.
And then as their skills grow and gain, then they can get into our athleisure, where our like really heavy duty backpack and our really customized duffel and that type of thing happens. But there needs to be a mid-step. So when she's coming out of that brothel, you have so many things that she's working through. She doesn't even know how to wake up and how to take care of herself, And so we have to create that where we can have multiple solutions. And that's where we're looking at, I think we could really scale if we have some of those ingenuity. And as far as legally, absolutely, that could work too. But knowing that it's a social enterprise, and so the idea of getting a return immediately might look a little bit different. But having a heart for that, I think we could really, really scale and then even expand into some other areas, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. So when you do go to market against some of these larger athleisure businesses, do they then take the narrative of the Aruna Project and kind of apply it to their membership base or their client base? Or obviously some of it's just direct to consumer, so they're educated and they're buying from you directly. But when you think about doing a deal with, one of these boutique fitness operators, you say, look, here's the project, here's who it helps. And also, kind of like the Susan B. Komen, which got a little bit out of control because everyone, used the pink band and they were, selling that in a way. How do you think about marketing the mission for brands to say, look, I sell this product and this is what I believe in? Or do they just believe in it and they can kind of, I'm trying to figure out, Will boutique fitness operators, will health club chains, will retailers say, I've got the Aruna brand because, and this is what I stand for? Or are they trying to do that for their own good? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the right question. Sure. I'm trying to think about, Equinox did a deal with Cycle for Survival, which is a spin. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they said they did it originally was because they wanted their employees to feel like they stood for more than just, a high-end, pricey health club in urban markets, but it wasn't necessarily for the members. So I just want to understand, when you talk to people at the show, you say, carry my products because not only is it good for you and it's good for us and all these women, but it's also something you need to educate your members on, that this is how you make purchasing decisions. Mm-hmm. And I care about more than just your results.
Yeah. I think it's all of that. And so, it just depends on the person. So you're going to have some where they're high into empowering women. I mean, I think it just feeds into that. When we talk about empowering others, that's a heavy word, but I think the action in doing that is another word. So it's kind of like we are actually doing that. So if you're really serious about empowering people, carry our products, But then also, not just that, but some people do have more of a heart for it and they want to share the story. Absolutely. You can show your customers, your clients, your members where your heart is, And so, and then also offering them solutions so that if they can't buy amazing athleisure products to house in their studios, we can hold that for you. We can take care of all the other stuff because that's what we're good at, But then you can still share the story. You can share it with your members. So I think it's both. And I think it just depends on the person. And so that's where I'd like to say that we've created it in such a way that it can tailor to whoever needs extra, something to share with their members type of thing for a cause.
And look, the health clubs and the boutique fitness operators historically have not really done a good job on e-commerce. They've gone directly to on-demand programs. They've gone directly to streaming live classes, and they forgot, in a way, okay, all these women that are going to my bar classes, they all have to wear grip socks, right? Why don't I sell that online instead of stocking them in the pro shop? Why am I not providing sneakers for all these people that are on the treadmill, right?
Sure.
So at some point, they're going to have a robust e-commerce solution. So is that something that you could pursue and say, here's a co-branded Shopify page or, a skin page? Is that what are some of the things that you envision doing in the Halo sector?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's where I can see in this sector helping quite a bit, because that is, we don't have the funds, and starting small, a brick and mortar is just not feasible
at
all. And so for us, we learned the e-commerce very, very well. And then providing solutions. And so our team that's what they're really good at, and so we're on like express.com, labels we love, like other brands, so higher end, different areas and capabilities. And so that's what I think we can offer a lot of these studios that, in that world, they don't have the manpower that, they need to work with their members. They are in person, they are,
Right.
Or online now. I can't even imagine going through that with them,
Yeah.
what the past 2 years has been. But, and so I think that solution can be a really good partnership and a team effort that we could provide them.
Are there any other groups, just thinking, there's a big push right now for partnerships and joint ventures and co-branding. Are there any other groups that have the same initiative that you have, but they don't have the for-profit side of it, where you can basically go to someone who's helping, women get out of these situations and say, hey, look, you could almost be like a franchisee or like a licensee for that cause. I don't know if that's come up or not.
Yeah, it has, and we have some other things in the works where we're trying to, figure out new sales channels and that type of thing, where it's like ambassadors and that type, where you can, and there's both and, I guess, percentages that you get for selling products and all type, there's other things in the works. But so I do think there is some of that, but I think the difference in our brand is creating it from the beginning. There's a lot of give back organizations where they might have products that they sell that goes to somebody or to, they buy a woman's products from her own business and then she gets the proceeds. But we are kind of an all-in-one solution. We are the organization and then we are the business as well. And so I think that is very different. So it's 100% of all of our employees are rescued out of human trafficking.
And how many employees do you have?
So right now, we've employed over 120 some women we've only been in business since 2015.
Okay.
And so our athleisure products actually came out in 2018. So we have been very small, small start, but that's very intentional too. Currently, we have about 60 women, and we're looking at we're on the trajectory to employ about 3 women every month. We will never employ a woman unless we can fully sustain it ongoing, if that makes sense. And so in our training center, we serve over 3,000 in the red light area specifically. And then here domestically, we also employ directly in Cincinnati is where we're starting. And hopefully as we grow, we can expand that. So.
That's great. Are there any companies that have asked you, I want to make a purchase commitment annually, and I want it to cover, these specific people or like a certain amount of your overhead?
That's inner workings. It doesn't work. If somebody comes and they want to say, they specifically itemize it for that cause or for that reason, obviously we have to do that. There's different areas of engagement. And so there's some who helped us launch, our new training center. And so we're expanding in other red light areas or, that type of thing.
So as you think, I've got some ideas going through my head and like all the different nuances to this business model. You want to have the best athleisure product. Like that's in and of itself. At the same time, no one else that you're competing with thinks on the altruistic side of like, okay, who's making the product? How are they doing mentally? How are they doing physically? Right?
Yes.
So how do you kind of wear your like winning at all costs hat, with you and your husband on the sports side, and also say, yeah, but like we've got other things that we're covering here? Or are you able to like turn a switch and say, look, I'm an athleisure company, I'm competing with Lululemon. Oh yeah, but these are my employees, right? They're not your typical employees, but there's a team I brought on the field and I'm here to win. How do you think about that?
Yeah, it's conversations every day,
Yeah.
And so it's funny because my husband, he's a visionary, and so he's kind of like, let's go after this huge scale, and I'm kind of like the logistics individual, and so I'm like, even for one, like because it's so hard. You see the need, you know the need, and you know the people, you know who you're trying to serve, so it's a conflict all the time. And so you have that. And sometimes we win at it and sometimes we totally fail,
Right.
and then it's like
everybody
recapturing.
Does, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where we, keep reminding ourselves it is, and then there's the responsibility, right? So even as a team player, you have to realize that it's about these women and you have to be the voice of them. And so if we don't succeed, we know what the results are.
When you think about retail channel partners, like right now everything's going through e-commerce. If you think about like a Dick's Sporting Goods or I'm gonna drop off pretty quickly. Dick's Sporting Goods used to be Modell's, that doesn't exist anymore. Sports Authority, are they still alive? I don't know. I haven't seen them on the internet or anything. They haven't sent me any direct mail. You know, when you take a look at those big accounts and say, okay, I can do a $10 million purchase order with Dick's Sporting Goods, and there can be an area of where they're educating people on this, and they've got these Bass Pro Shops, right? They've got 800,000 square feet, and each part of their store is almost, they're trying to create experiential, and they're not really doing it. They're just kind of like make the boxes look nicer, or drop some TRX straps, or put a treadmill in there that you're allowed to walk on. But is there an idea of, it was like walking into like the Aruna section, and it's like, it could be like a little mini field trip, almost like, hey, here's a different type of company, and here's a different type of product, and here's a different type of way of going about it. I would just wonder if that's something to think about on big purchase orders.
Yeah, and the way we kind of are wired and work, it's like, give me a contact person who's actually a buyer who can make decisions.
All right, so we'll send you a couple, like tomorrow.
A lot of time. I mean, that's the hardest thing, honestly. It's like,
of course.
We would love to have the ideas. We would love to have that solution and even have, talks on what can happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it would go really well because people want their purchase to matter.
Right.
And that's exactly where we come in. And it's like, it does. And so one really cool feature of our bag, so on the outside, when you look at our website and everything is very functional, pretty, cute,
Right.
I guess not just pretty for the men's stuff, but you know what I mean. But on the inside of all of our products, the liners have the names of all of the artisans that are freed and employed with us.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so we do it very intentionally. So it's not just a cool bag, which that lures everybody in. So it's like the look and feel of it. But then it's the human impact that you're making, that you're part of a freedom story.
Because I think, like in the coffee industry, they used to kind of not tell you where the coffee beans came from because somebody would find out how much they're paying people in the whole supply chain. And now a lot of these coffee shops kind of promote it on the walls. Here's where these come from. Here's pictures of that location. Here's the communities that are built up and sustainable because of where we buy these coffee beans. And then you've got like this sneaker industry. Nobody talks about where the sneakers are made or who makes them or what age those kids are. So I feel like turning that inside out, which I guess you've done with the bags, could be very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, and it's hard because you still have, large big box chains that's like, well, but you're not, I'm not going to give a reusable bag that costs $2 when I can get it for 50 cents from the bag makers somewhere. But I'm like, but you're only feeding the problem, And then I think, like I had mentioned earlier, the whole fast fashion is really being highlighted right now. And so it's trying to slow everything down.
Explain that to me.
So fast fashion is where it's like they're just cranking out like terrible production units in China, in other countries. India is another one.
You're saying the products aren't made well, or what do you mean?
The products aren't made well, but the living conditions and the work conditions are terrible. So it's human trafficking in a different way, I should say. And so poor labor practices. Poorly made fabrics as well, but they just charge nothing because their workers don't get paid anything. And so that is only feeding the problem. So we used to call them sweatshops. And so, that type of thing. And so that's where we're trying to change a standard. And so there's a lot of clothing factories and brands that are changing that and trying to talk about the sustainability and even like the coffee beans, and the poor labor industry of that too. And so they're trying to tell the stories of like, no, we're not a part of that, but it's still a work in progress. It's very slow.
Understood. So, at the Boutique Fitness Solutions Summit, it skews more towards females that are working out in the group exercise. So you should definitely, try and get as many accounts there. And a lot of them are doing, whether it's shirts that they give away or bags that they give away, bags as part of the pro shop. So I think this is a great area for you to focus on, and hopefully this brand proliferates across country.
Yeah, thank
As
you.
boutiques. So,
Yeah, it's
in,
really
in
fun.
closing, do you have any? I'm sure you got many quotes, or business lessons that you've learned, or you've gone down an interesting and unique path.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
what
I
do
have
you
two.
got?
Can I tell you two?
Please. We'll edit
I
none
can
of
never,
them.
the way I am, I'm never just one. So have you heard about the amputee runner, Jackie Hunt, recently,
Yes,
who's ran
yes.
102 marathons? So she, after yesterday, she said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. I thought that's really, really cool.
I like that.
And then my other one is by Mother Teresa. Do ordinary things with extraordinary love. So that's kind of that's my heart. That's to see women have a choice and a true freedom. So.
That's awesome. All right, the Aruna Project. We will have all the show notes. Pick up your bags, apparel, athleisure, and co-brand it with April Berg. She'll fly
Awesome.
anywhere from Cincinnati
That's right.
to be in your
I will.
studio. All right,
Awesome. Thank you.
Good to meet you. And
Me
that's
too.
a really great cause. So
Awesome. Thanks.
thanks for devoting your life to it.